Hey everyone, it's Wolfram here, and I'm going to talk you through the easiest of the Caldari storyline missions. It's T6 mission, and it's for patriotism. You can pick this up in Jita if you want to buy it, about 12-13 million. The reward is 25 million, but part of the reason it's the easiest is that it's only one place you've got to go to fight 4 waves of ships, and it's relatively straightforward, and you can do it quite quickly. It's very close to G. It's normally a couple of jumps to the first point and then about 6 or 8 jumps depending where it's going to spawn, to the place where you need to go fight the enemy ships. Now I'm going to show you how I do this in a Beam Laser Fit Phantasm. You can see the fit, and it's the first fit I've used for the Phantasm. I have a video for that. I'm going to link it here, and it's linked in the description, so I'm not going to go massively over. The only difference here is I've taken off the mirror shield. You don't need it for this mission, and switched in a target pane to basically to get greater damage. Warp in as usual, 60-70, that's fine. My optimal range is 24 kilometers. You've got to check that on your weapons so that you know what your optimal range is, because it depends on skills. But that's what mine is, and it's a very straightforward system I use for getting through this quickly. What you don't want to do is get into the pack. You don't want to. If your problem is if you orbit the early ships, you orbit around the back of them, and it will put you into the main body of all the other ships, which will cause you difficulty. They run warp disruptors and warp scrams from the very start of the mission, and so I wanted to take you through how I do it. And simply, I approach it at 24. So the first enemy is going to come at you quickly, micro warp drives, and they're going to separate away from the pack. I approach them to 24. The Phantasm will slow down. It'll turn around. You'll take more damage this way because you haven't got all your angular velocity to protect you. But on the frigates, you also don't have the tracking issue, because they're going straight at you, you're going straight at them, and you should, certainly with this ship, 2-3 shots take them down. But as you can see, the first thing I had, this pithy griffin zipped around the side of me. Now in the new patch that should be a bit better, and I think it is a bit better. I've run it and it's much easier, but if you get this problem, you'll see you can struggle to track. So what I'll do is I'll move the ship and try and then basically just drive it away from the pack rather than approach them. So I'm still trying to keep a linear speed away, because you can tank these initial ships. They're not the problem. The problem is they pin you down with webs and scrams, and then the bigger ships, when they catch up, will destroy you. So what you need to do is keep on moving away from them, and then you can do the approach and go away. You'll do it automatically, and take out the frigates. As you've just seen, and it's relatively quick to do that, certainly on this first wave, and then you can grind it through. Effectively what I'll do is I'll try and get rid of the early ships doing this method, and then there's few enough ships, 10 or 7 or less really, I can switch over to orbiting them at high speed, and of course at that point you take less damage. As you see, I didn't take much damage anyway, and the shields can buff it, but this is a good way of taking the frigs down and not worrying about the tracking speed. As you can see, I do 2 shots, I take that manticore out without too much of a difficulty. So I'm going to skip ahead on this. If you do want to see the full video, I'm going to put up an unedited, no commentary video of For Patriotism using this build, so you can see it yourself if you want. I'm just going to edit out the highlights for you. This is the end of the wave, first wave, and what I tend to do is, if you're not sure what's coming next, and with the beam fit you want range, you don't want to be in the middle of the pack, is I will look to warp out to the station, Celestial, something to give me some distance. You think 30-40 kilometers is close, but the micro warp driving ones, so those cormorants will be on top of you very, very fast, and you don't have, even this got decent locking speed. By the time you've locked, they've got you pinned, and you don't want that. You want them stretched out from the pack so you can take them down. So what I do is warp out, and then I'll warp back in, 60, 70, 90 or 100 on the later waves. It's a very safe approach. If you feel very confident, then by all means stay, but I don't recommend it. This is the way I do For Patriotism, in a very safe way. It takes longer. It takes me an hour and 20 minutes to do For Patriotism this way. There are other ways I can do it in under an hour. I can do it in about 55 minutes. So warping back in, you'll see that I'm warping in at a longer range, and this will give me a better chance to set up, which is just important for these waves. So I know already, and something you're going to have to bear in mind, those two pithy cormorants generally run a warp disruptor and warp scram. So can the pithy bantam, and you may find some of the manticores can run webs. So can the coraxes. Elites often run webs and scrams. So the advantage with beamer lasers is my optimal is 24. I really don't want to get within 20, because as soon as you hit, and if you get lower, because you've got to bear in mind, if you're approaching at 24 kilometers, your ship's going to stop and turn around. So you'll actually approach closer than 24 and then get away again. And you've got to be careful not to get too many webs. So I've got a decent speed. I know you can get much faster on the Phantasm, but I've got a decent speed. So I'll just show you taking down the cormorants. You see, I've crossed the 24, I'm approaching at 26, and I'm down to 19, turning around. So it's something you bear in mind. You could always approach it a lot longer, 26, 28, if you were feeling particularly safe. I'm happy with this, because I know if I get one web, I generally can outrun them. And it only takes a couple of shots from this ship, and I can take them down. The DPS is 490 at the moment with the beams. It is better with pulses, and I'll talk about that in a different video, but this is the fit I use. That's the safest way of doing it, in my view. Basically keeping at range. Same principle. We're going to run through this wave quickly. Again, I'm not going to cut it. I'm going to cut it out, and we'll skip into the next one. So I've warped out, got to the station, got my cap recharged, fixed whatever shield I needed to, which is an advantage of doing this method as well. It helps that there's a station here. If there's not a station, you warp to a celestial body, you can wait till your cap recharges enough for you to be comfortable. I'm relatively cap stable, but having that bit of extra helps. I'm going to warp in. This wave, definitely going to have elites. This is the third wave on For Patriotism. It's ramps up each time harder, and with significantly more ships, and you have to be each time much more careful, even in a faction cruiser. So we've got 24 ships on this one. We can already see the elites popping up. I know pithy cormorants are generally going to run straight at me, and they're the ones who've got scrams or disrupts. We can see the elite pithy caracal looks like it's heading quite quickly towards me, and so is the elite pithy corax. So we're gonna, but the cormorants are, looks like they're definitely separating away from the pack. So that's fine. What I'm going to do now is, as I watch it, I'm going to sit for a little bit to make sure that's right. And you see, I wasn't quite right. In fact, the pithy manticores are separating away first, and so I've got 4 ships. I let them get a good 10 kilometers, a bit more than that as I get started up. I'll target and start shooting straight away. I'm not going to hit them, but it just means that I'm going as I click into approach, and that gives me the gap from the main pack to deal with these first lot who are going to pin you down. That's, remember, the key of this is stop them from pinning you down. If they pin you all down, you're going to get in trouble. And you can approach it. You see, as my approach takes me down to 17 kilometers, I've got the scrams on me. I don't worry about the scrams, so I'm not running a micro warp drive. Do not run a micro warp drive in the storyline missions because of the scrams. Your afterburn is absolutely fine. You don't need to be going 3-4k in these missions. It's not going to help you. And once again, same tactic. I'm just going to deal with this exactly the same way. I'm going to approach. You'll see they're barely doing any damage to me. It's 20 odd ships, but I'll whittle down on these early ones in exactly this method, and then I'll start to deal with the pack. As you see ships break away, sometimes I'll break away and target them. Sometimes you need to watch out. That's some of the elites. So the elite pithy caracal here, or even the elite pithy corax, they may try and run away from you as you come in close to them, which will bring you deeper into the pack. If that starts to happen, just unlock them or change, focus fire on something closer. Always basically focus on the closest ship to you without orbiting until you're down to the last 7 ships. The big ships you can orbit. you can orbit the Blackbirds, the mowers, and the Caracals. But what you don't want to be doing that is when you've got the destroyers there and everything. So this is wave 3. Yeah, there's a number of elites. Be careful of them. Don't let everyone gang up on you. Basically, if you start to feel that everyone's too close, just align away from the pack. Double click, have the afterburner on. Make sure you're going fast and away from the webs, and just pull and create a gap. If you get really worried, just warp out, warp back in at distance. That's absolutely fine. Because the aim here is to play this safely, and that's what we're doing. So this is going to be straightforward. As you see, what happened is the Caracal pushed back, others pushed forward, and I'm always trying to target the closest ones to me to deal with each one that way. Take a bit of damage. I can heal that. It's not a problem. I'm going to skip to the next wave now. We're at the end of wave 3 here. Straightforward, really. I'm just finishing off the mower last, and actually I click warp to get out because everyone's jumped on me at 30 kilometers. It can be sometimes a bit risky because if they jump on you at 26, they can scram you. And again, just try and get some distance, either to warp out, take out. You can do it, but this way, just click warp straight away. Don't worry about what's going to appear. You warp out, check in, get yourself sorted, and then warp. I hope this is getting old for you. Same principle, just warping back in. At range, see who's there. So the final wave, For Patriotism, 34 ships. This one you do have to be careful of, because there are a lot of ships that scram. There are elites that are tougher to take down. Not that difficult. It is only the T6 mission, but you just have to be careful. Because if you get yourself stuck in the middle of them, if you orbit the early ones, it'll swing you into the pack. You'll get triple webs. You can get 4 or more scrams on you at the same time. That basically brings you to a stop. You can't do anything, and they'll just take you out. You can't tank it. I know, so I've lost 2 Marlers doing this mission before at this point. So yeah, that's my own stupidity, but that's what happens. And I'd rather learn in a ship that costs 65 million ISK than a ship that costs 1.5 billion, which is fine. So same tactic as always. I'm picking off the early ships. It's tougher with these ones. You just need to watch out. That Pythagoras you see early on, we managed to get it without problem, and just take it down. You see Coraxes are scramming. There's 2 scrams, 4 scrams on me already at this point. I'm not worried about the scrams. I can outrun those ships if I just directly move away from them. I know I can beat all of them at 1.4 kilometers a second is my top speed with no problems. Even with one web on, I can get away from them. 2 webs is a real problem, but I know he's been in that range. I don't mind that. Well, pick them off because I can pull them out, pick them off, and that's what you do. So I mean, for patriotism, this way, very straightforward. The difficulty with it takes longer, and you end up having to collect all the loot at the end, which again adds time. So I think it takes me about an hour and 5 minutes into the video, into the mission. I can do it in that, but then it takes a bunch more time afterwards, and then you still got to travel to another place in order to talk to someone in order to get the money. I'm not going to show that all. If you want to see it, then there's the full version of this mission up as well for you to look at. But really, what this is a great start to practice. I like the Caldari in my ship because I shield tank, so I don't have lasers at me. Yes, there's a spread of damage types, so I'm running reactive and an adaptive. I will later talk about in other videos. I've now switched that fit and I've taken out the reactive and put in a second adaptive. Frankly, it's much of a muchness, but for the Caldari missions I think it just helps a little bit. The advantage with the Caldari is also that much of the E-War doesn't affect this ship. They run missile disruption, I don't use missiles. They run newts, I don't get close enough. Sorry, they run nozes, I don't get close enough for the nozes to affect me. And even when I do, they don't generally take that much cap away from me that causes any particular problems. I'm not cap stable. If I ran everything with a Beam Fit build, it's about 7-8 minutes running the shields. Generally, if I take more damage, I'll tap the shields and rep the shields through. Now I know I'm doing this in a faction cruiser. That makes life a lot easier. And if you were to do this, then you need to think about what fits you'd use. So the disadvantage in Caldari mission, the Caracals can do it. I can imagine there'll be no difficulty doing it, but the tracking disruption will affect you. Just as in this ship, I hate running Amar missions. I can do them, but they take longer and they're really frustrating because of the tracking disruption on you. And that's why I prefer running the Caldari with the Phantasm. If, for example, so you could do the Cinnabol, this mission, but a Caracal, maybe not. Drone boats are the perfect alternative, but they're not affected by this. So the Vexor Navy issue, the Prophecy, all fantastic at doing these storylines because you can still effectively kite with drones. You still have to be in drone range, so you'd have to extend the drone range on whichever ship you're using to give yourself decent drone range. But with these ships, as long as you're sort of 25-30 kilometers away from them, they're really not going to do you much damage. As long as you can keep away from them, you're going to do alright with it. So that's great. If I just want to cover quickly, you obviously get 25 mil less tax for the ship reward. I generally find you'll pick up about 5 mil, 4 to 5 mil in bounties, so that makes it 30. The loot is difficult to calculate, especially now we've got the new patch where the faction loot is probably going to go up in value, or at least the stuff that was crap was going to go up in value because it's now reprocessable. But I reckon you get another 1 or 2 million in faction loot. You might get very lucky and get some really nice drops, and then you get the Patriotism chest, which can be a complete bust and give you absolutely nothing that's worth anything, or it might give you a decent afterburner or micro warp drive, which I think from this one I did get that. I got the Ranger micro warp drive and set it for about 5 million. So I reckon you can probably net about 30 million from doing this mission, which I think is pretty good for an hour's also work. You will lose tax from most of that, and if you buy the mission it's going to cost you 12-13 million to buy it. So let's say you probably make 15 to 18 million doing this mission. Still, that's not bad. Bear in mind, if I'm ratting in nullsec, I can make sort of like the 2.83 million ticks on the anomalies I do, which nets me about 12 million plus the loot. So it's on a par with my ratting, not counting special anoms. They're different, and they're different loot and all that sort of stuff. But you know, this is a good start. Remember, if you can, once you master doing this one, you can master doing the harder ones. It's just about stepping up and knowing the limits of your ship. Anyway, I'll stop talking there. That's my guide to doing For Patriotism. And if you can let me know what you think, like it, dislike it, comments about it, it's all welcome. I'm happy to talk to people about what they think. So if you can leave me a like, comment, subscribe, that'd be great. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching this far.